All right, welcome back to another video. It's time to dig into this Lemons car and find out what's making all the noise. I got a feeling it's coming from the primary chain for the timing set on here. So I'm gonna dig down in there, see if I can't find out what's wrong with it. All right, to give me some more space, I'm gonna disconnect this air inlet tube, take this tube off of here. To do that, I'm gonna have to undo these clamps here, and I guess I can leave that connected. All right, so I'm going to drain the coolant out of this thing so I can get the expansion tank and the radiator and the electric fan out of here. It'll give me a whole lot more room to get the crank pulley off of here. You may not need to do that if you're doing this on a vehicle. You may not need to take all this off to get that out of there, but pulling the radiator and the electric fan out of these vehicles is pretty easy. Plus, I need to get all the 50/50 antifreeze mix out so we can run straight water. That's what you have to run when you run these things on a racetrack. So the first thing I'm going to do is drain out all the coolant from the radiator. So I'm underneath the car now. There's a little drain plug right here. You may be able to get them with your finger, but you may not be able to. These things shouldn't be too super tight. So once you break it loose, all the coolant will start coming out of this little spout right here. So you want to have some type of drain pan handy for once it does start coming out there. All right, back up top here to help it drain out faster, you can take this cap off of here. Once you do, it's going to start coming out of there faster, so you're going to want to double check and make sure it's not overshooting your drain pan. Okay, so while that's draining, we can take this panel off right here. To do that, just use a little screwdriver to pop these up. If you have one of these pry tools, it also helps. It's got a little fork on there. I don't know if they call these interior tools or what, but they work really well. All right, once they're all taken out of there, you can take this guy off. Now this expansion tank is pretty much empty. We can work towards getting that off. There's a hose on the bottom and a hose on the top and two 8mm bolts here, and then we can take that thing out. I like to leave these bolts in place so that I don't lose them. All right, so now I'm going to work on this upper radiator hose, getting this off of there. One thing that helps to remove these old radiator hoses, sometimes they can get kind of corroded on there. You guessed it, PB Blaster. I love this stuff. Just spray a little bit around the outside of this thing. It'll soak in there. Same on both sides. And then while I work that clamp off of there, hopefully this stuff will work its way in there and this hose will come off easier. I'm going to get this power steering reservoir out of the way. There's only one 8mm holding this thing on. Again, I'm going to leave that bolt in place there so I don't lose it. So this fan and the radiator can be pulled out as one assembly, but it's pretty easy to take them apart. You got a bolt here and a bolt here holding that fan onto the radiator. So I'm just going to take this radiator out of there. I'm just going to take this fan out of there while the radiator is still draining. I don't want to take that lower radiator hose off of there until I've drained it a little bit more. Plus, getting the fan out of there is going to help me be able to get down to the lower radiator hose, and then I can start taking some of this stuff off of here. All right, so the electrical connection for the fan can be a pain in the butt. I don't know what style of connection they use on this thing, but if you can't quite get down to it and get a grip on it, it should be easier to get to if I take this fan, unbolt it, pull it up, and kind of be able to get a little bit better access to it. All right, so now I can get to this connection a little bit better. Hopefully get it off of there. Now we take the fan out. With the fan out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and remove the lower radiator hose. Before I do that, I'm going to close the petcock on the bottom there and slide my catch can over beneath the lower radiator hose. Before I go any further, before I start taking apart the front of this engine, I'm going to disconnect the battery. Something I probably should have done before I even started this, but it's never too late. I'm going to disconnect the battery and I'm going to put a battery charger on there so that that battery can be fresh once I get this thing all put back together, have a fresh battery to crank it around if we need to. All right, so I'm pulling out the big guns, try and get this thing off of here. Hopefully it comes off. That seemed too easy. All right, so the technical manual says there is a washer down in there. All right, the service manual says there's a washer in there. That doesn't feel like there's one. I can't get anything to move inside there. Break out my handy dandy mirror, my light, take a better look in there. It does not look like there's a washer. Okay, so here's the problem with this pulley. It looks like there's no washer in there, which means that the part that this bolt connects to or pushes up against is the actual pulley itself. So I can't push up against that area because it'll push against itself and it'll separate the actual harmonic balancer portion of it. It'll basically separate that. So I could shove a spacer in there and push up against the threaded portions, and that might work, but I don't want to damage any of the threads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this bolt in there, only a few threads in, and then push up against it with a crank pulley tool and see if I can at least get this pulley to move a little bit. And then maybe once I get it loose, I'm going to shove something in there. Basically going to try to protect the threads as much as possible, getting that pulley off of there. All right, so the book says that these two bolt holes right here are M8 by 125. When I try to put one in this hole, it just will not thread at all. Or maybe I was missing the hole. But when I put it in over here, it seems like it tries to start to thread. So I'm going to throw some PB Blaster in there and see if I can't clean out whatever's in there. It feels like it might be full of crud or something. Yeah, that one's going in now. So I'm going to work these guys in and out a little bit, see if I can't clean those bolt holes out before I put the tool on here. By cleaning them out, I got it hand started. I'm just going to kind of tighten them up and loosen them up. Just go back and forth with them. All right, so I got those cleaned out pretty good. So now I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to go ahead and get that in there and see if I can't get this thing to move a little bit. All right, there's not a lot of thread engagements on these M8s, so I'm going to be very careful taking that. Actually, I'm going to take this. Accessory belt off real quick. First, I'm going to get this water pump pulley taken off. Anyway, water pump pulley wants to be stubborn, so it gets the big gun. All right, I got a better view now. I'm going to see if this thing starts coming off of here. Now I got to be careful. I can't go too far because I got the bolt in there. When it hits the bottom side of the bolt, it's obviously not going to go any further, so I got to try and feel for that. Okay, this pulley's got to be close to coming off of here. I'm gonna take this thing off and check on that bolt that's on there. Oh yeah, it was close. It didn't hit it yet, but it was close. I'm gonna take it out. I mean, there's like zero pressure. Ugh. All right, so I've put the bolt in there, just a couple more threads. I got about 1/4 of an inch before the pulley actually hits the bottom of the bolt. So hopefully this pulley will come completely loose before it hits the bottom of that bolt. All right. Well, I bottomed out on the bolt, so that's about as far as I can go. Take this tool off of here, see what other options I got. This, by the way, is a Mac toolkit. You can get these tools from AutoZone. You can rent them for free. Basically, pay a deposit on them, and as long as you return them, you get your money back. This is like a crank. It's a pulley puller slash steering wheel puller. All right, so since my my tool, I don't have an extension long enough to go and skinny enough to go all the way inside the crankshaft without hitting the threads of it. They make a special tool for it, which I don't have, and I'm gonna do something that may or may not work. I'm gonna take this 1/4 inch extension and I'm gonna jam that down in there. And what that should do is go between the threads of what's on the crankshaft, and then this is gonna push against the extension and pull out on the pulley. So hopefully this works. All right, so either this is gonna work perfectly or it's going to fail miserably. Let's see how it feels. Oh, it feels good. It's moving. It's gonna do it. Oh, it's getting close. Oh, there it is. Look at that, you can see the 1/4 inch extension work perfectly. All right, I'm gonna take this idler pulley off. Looks like it's gonna be a pain, so it gets the big gun. All right, so there's this is a heater hose right here. And we're gonna disconnect that, get that out of the way. But I got a feeling there's gonna be some coolant in here, possibly. So I'm gonna move my drain pan up underneath here. Now I'm gonna hit that guy with some PV Blaster. All right, so this guy's not wanting to cooperate. Anytime you get that happening, just gotta peel it back a little bit, spray a little more PV Blaster in there, let it work in there. And you can actually use the channel locks to grip the hose and spin it to kind of break it free. There, once it breaks free, it should come off of there. Yeah. And now I'm going to get this lower radiator hose completely off of here. Again, I'm going to hit it with some PV Blaster. All right, with the clamp off of there, see if we can just twist it off. And it's not cooperating. Low radiator hose. All right, I'm going to disconnect this crankshaft position sensor. These have these like weird little clips on them that can be kind of tricky. Or maybe just squeeze them up and pull it out. It's kind of, oh, there it goes. So I take this little C-clip off of there. Dang it, just dropped a little seal down inside. Perfect, went right into the coolant. There's a little rubber seal that goes inside here. It just fell into the coolant. So we'll get that connection out of there. Now I'm gonna take this sensor off of here. I guess it didn't fall in there, it fell on the ground, the little seal. All right, so I got my little seal back. I'm gonna shove that back into the connector here. Okay, so there's, on that wiring harness, there's these little clips that are going over studs. Gotta get those things off. There's 2 of them. All right, now we can get this wiring harness out of the way. Okay, so down along the bottom, there's going to be 5 bolts that go into the bottom of the engine cover. Basically, it's almost like the oil pans down there. They call it an engine cradle, but there's 5 of them. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over on this side. I'm going to get those bottom ones first. I'm going to move this drain pan out of the way because I'm using an electric wrench, and I don't want to drop it down inside there. With my luck, I'd drop it right in there and ruin my ratchet. Okay, so now I'm going to go around this front cover and get all the bolts. Remove it from there. It says there's 5 bolts and 4 stud bolts, and then the cover will come up off of here, and then we'll disconnect this. There's a hose up on the top here we'll disconnect. Okay, I got all the bolts out of there. There was one back behind this power steering line that I needed to use a wobbly on. Now I'm going to go and get the 4 studs and loosen those up. I'm going to use a hand ratchet because I got a feeling these ones aren't going to be very easy to get off of there. So I'm going to bust them loose with this ratchet before I hit them with the gun. So there's one. All right, so this hose right here is going to be the one that I'm going to have to remove when once I get this cover loosened up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that with some PB Blaster in case I needed some little assistance there. And I'm going to move the clamps up. All right, so that should do it. I got all the bolts out of there. Normally these covers are going to have RTV, at least in the corners where these things meet. If not all the way around on the gasket, especially if this has been replaced. Some mechanics like to use RTV all over the place. Bottom line is I'm going to have to pry this thing a little bit. So there are some little pry tabs over here. See if I can get anything moving. Well, it's moving. Let me get my drain pan underneath there. Alright, so I'm basically taking a screwdriver and working it up the side of the cover here. I can't really find a place to pry on it on the top, so I'm just going to see if I can't slowly work this thing out. Oh, that didn't sound good. Get everything. Well, it doesn't want to come off because I missed a damn bolt up here. Hopefully I didn't ruin the cover by trying to pry on it like that. I heard a crack. Hopefully that didn't ruin it. There is a gasket behind it, so hopefully it's that. Oh, imagine that. It comes off way easier if you get all the bolts loose. Alright, I don't see any crack in this thing from when I was prying on it, so it must have been the gasket moving around or something, or screwdriver. But this looks fine. Alright, so here's our primary chain. Oh yeah, that thing is done. Oh yeah, look at that. It's just even. So the whole plastic piece is gone that was normally on there. This thing is broken. This is definitely what's bad on it. Oh, look at this. We got some plastic pieces up here. I can get these without dropping them. There's one. There's two. Alright, we'll see if we can fit these things together. See where they came from. There's other chains that go up to the cams, and hopefully this isn't from those guides. Otherwise we're gonna have more work on our hands here. But I'm gonna get this new tensioner on here, and maybe do some more snooping around on this thing and see what else is wrong with it. But that's definitely bad. Okay, so the good news is we found a problem with the primary chain. That's definitely an issue. The bad news is that there was a piece of guide that was straight. And as you can see by the piece that came off of this tensioner, this piece is supposed to be round. So the only straight pieces that I know of are going to be on the tight side of the chain. And let me show you if I can, let me see if I can get down here and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so right up in here, you can see the other chain is sitting on, let me see if I can get a screwdriver. So right here you can see the other chain that goes up to the camshaft, and it's sitting on this flat piece right here. Now every guide that I've ever seen is going to have a piece of plastic on there. You can see how loose that chain is. It's going to have a piece of plastic on there to keep it from metal on metal. This is metal on metal, so it's definitely making noise. I see a plastic piece right here. Oh, yeah. So there's another chunk. So bottom line is I think I'm going to have to redo all the tensioners on this engine before we can take it racing. So that pretty much does it for this video. Found out one of the culprits was the timing chain or the primary chain, but it looks like the secondary chains, if that's what they call them, the chains that go up to the camshafts, the guides and the tensioners, we'll probably redo the tensioners anyway. Those are easy to get to from the outside. But I have to dig into this engine a little bit more, probably take the intake off, most likely take the valve covers off, and hopefully with the valve covers off I can get to all the chains and all the tensioners that we need. But I'm going to recommend that we replace all the tensioners and all the guides in this engine, because this engine has 270,000 miles, something like that. If these have never been replaced, and judging by the cover that came off of this thing, nobody's ever been inside this engine. This engine may have been replaced. It might have been replaced at 100,000 miles or something like that. I don't know. But the guides and the tensioners are definitely going to need to be replaced in this thing. So thanks for watching. If you want to see more progress on this thing and hopefully see this thing on the racetrack, stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.